Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Today we're gathered in response to the wholesale siege of the Gaza Strip and the comprehensive strangulation of its 1.5 million residents. We're also here to hold the Canadian government publicly accountable for its role in supporting this siege. The Canadian government has been a staunch supporter of Israel's campaign of siege against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip since its inception in 2006, when the Hamas government was elected and Canadian Foreign Minister Peter MacKay was first to announce that not one resident would be given to the Hamas government, withdrawing $7.3 million in aid from the Gaza Strip. Canada has continued its support of the Israeli-imposed siege throughout the past 2 years. It's continued its support when Senior Policy Advisor Dov Weisglass formally announced that Gaza would be placed on a diet in 2006 in a policy of collective punishment, which we all know is illegal under international law. This policy is designed to, through a manufactured humanitarian crisis and economic collapse, to force the population of Gaza to turn against its elected government. We have seen what this diet has meant. We have a population that 80% of whom is wholly dependent on foreign aid for survival, on humanitarian aid for survival. We've seen widespread restrictions on all forms of aid. We have widespread shortages of such basic products like oil, baby milk, flour, sugar, gasoline, all of these things. Throughout this, Canada has stood behind the Israeli government.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
I just want to talk briefly about the reality on the ground right now in the Gaza Strip. What we hear most often reported in the media is fuel shortages. And most people think that the significance of that ends with people not being able to drive their cars. Too bad. People are going to have to walk, as Ehud Olmert has recently stated. The significance of this goes far beyond just people driving cars, as I hope people here know. What we have is a comprehensive shortage of all forms of fuel and electricity, which was reached the point where the only power station in Gaza, which was already operating at 60% capacity after being bombed by the Israeli Air Force, had to be completely shut down, making the entire 1.5 million residents of Gaza in a blackout. So we have total darkness here. We have no gas for people to cook. We have also no fuel for people to drive. No power whatsoever to keep the sewage treatment plants going, which has led entire neighborhoods and refugee camps to be backed up with streets awash in sewage. And now those sewage treatment plants are pumping 40 million liters of water per day into the Mediterranean Sea. Gaza Strip is hermetically sealed. We have patients who are in need of urgent life-saving surgery who are not being allowed to leave the Gaza Strip. It was recently reported by Physicians for Human Rights that Shin Bet, the Israeli security service, is now interrogating people in underground rooms at the Erez crossing in Gaza, blackmailing them to act as collaborators and informants on their colleagues and families in return for exit permits to get life-saving surgery. This is the reality here. We have more than 90 medications that are deemed to be necessary according to the World Health Organization that are wholly absent from hospitals in the Gaza Strip. Now, we have a situation where, as a result of power shortages, hospitals are forced in the position where they have to decide which life-saving equipment they're going to shut down first. Will it be the dialysis machines? Will it be incubators? Will it be ventilators? This is a situation we have here. Our next speaker up is going to be Reem Al-Nawari, who's going to talk more about the situation in the Gaza Strip now.
I actually just hung up the phone with our friends and with an organization called Hanan organization that works directly in different refugee camps in Gaza Strip. And they gave us the gist of what's going on right now. Basically, in the past 3 weeks, about 800,000 people from Gaza crossed over, broke the borders and crossed over to Egypt. And during that time, they tried to bring in as much supplies as they could. But in the meantime, of course, there was no aid. It was amazing. Like, one of the things that they were shocked when they crossed to the other side is that they waited the first day, the second day, the third day. They were just buying with their own money and expecting trucks of aid to come by or medicine to come by, and there was none. And it had to do, of course, with the collaboration of the Egyptian government with the Americans and with the Israeli government on basically instilling the siege and making sure it's happening. So people basically bought everything they could and went back, and they carried it on their shoulders. No truck was allowed to cross. According to their assessment, all the supplies that came into Gaza would not be even sufficient for more than 2-3 weeks to a maximum of a month total, because the medicine is out. Basically, there's no more medications that are beyond aspirin or like basic painkillers. My aunt has called us. She's asked for $800 for medication that she would buy normally for $80. So, and she said, you know, I can only find it in 1 or 2 places, and they're selling it at 10 times the price because there's so much demand. And her life is at stake, and also as many as, of course, hundreds of other people. When we're speaking about famine, a lot of times we speak about natural causes for a famine. And we usually, we come together and we try to support people who are suffering from this famine. But this is an engineered famine. This is an engineered genocide. And this is the kind of action, the kind of action that's required to actually defeat. We have to defeat this kind of siege. We have to defeat this kind of famine. And we have to defeat this kind of atrocity that we, even in Canada, are responsible for, because our Canadian government even refused to agree to the resolution that merely condemns Israel for the siege that it's imposing. And of course, there is not even an action that's required from that resolution. And Canada just walked out of the meeting. They even boycotted the meeting. So shame on Canada. Shame on our representatives coming out of that meeting and not helping 800,000 people there, and in the name of the security of Israel. When we're talking about, when we're talking about regular people, when you speak to anybody in Gaza now, they tell you there's no more fuel. We are freezing. It's a very cold time. Snow fell down in Jerusalem a few days ago, if you know, which means that it's a very small area. This is freezing cold in Gaza Strip. It's a shore city. The wind chill factor is really high at night, and the whole city or the whole area is pitch black. There's no light in Gaza whatsoever. And if you've ever been there, you know how the amount of lights that you see in Gaza at night. It's a very highly condensed area. We know already that everybody is impacted. You speak to the rich or to the poor in Gaza, they're impacted. The people who have, the rich who are supposedly employing the poor and supposedly who are the ones who are providing the city with food, are basically shut down because they can't even water, they can't harvest, they can't do anything without electricity. Things have changed over the past 80 years, and Israel wants us to turn back the clock on everything that we're doing. So even food shortage is beyond description. A bottle of water is $3. So it's the same prices as here or more. So this is the kind of thing that you have to think about when you go at night and we watch our TVs and we turn up our heat. Imagine yourself in these shoes. What will you do? And the first thing that comes to mind is that people are going to resist. The solidarity that people are demanding now is not limited anymore to political solidarity. It's not enough to stand here and say something. We have to send material support to Gaza. When people are hungry, you don't send them a paper. You send them food. When people need medicine, you send them medicine. When nobody's allowing you to get the medicine in, we go with them and break the border, and we make sure that we get all the supplies in. We demand that people demonstrate in front of the Egyptian consulate as much as the Israeli consulate, because Egypt, the Egyptian regime, is collaborating against the will of the Egyptian people. Thousands of trucks are waiting on the other side of the Suez Canal, are coming from all over Egypt, trying to get aid to Gaza, and until now, they are being forced not to cross what they call the peace bridge on top of the Suez Canal. So I think whoever can be there, please be there. If you can send money, people are having a hard time. If you have the supplies, you don't have the money. And if you have the money, you can't buy anything. So at least we have to make sure that we break the siege.